Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, and today we're talking about the Muppets. Why? Well, why not? You see, the Muppets are this global phenomenon, one that's taken the world by storm ever since the first initial release of The Muppet Show back in 1976. But even prior to that, the Muppets made appearances on Sesame Street, as well as various commercials that Jim Henson worked on, even prior to Sesame Street.
With this camera, I shoot pictures of people who don't drink Wilkins coffee. I'm ready. Shoot.
It's a global phenomenon, and honestly, what isn't there to love? I mean, I remember making my first puppet inspired by the Muppets. It was made of nothing more than cardboard, hot glue, and a dog that I found on the side of the road. But all of that is to say that today we're making Muppets into Pokémon. So it's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to get things started on the Muppet Show tonight. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me... Thanks for stopping by. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that makes me and YouTube happy, and let's hop right into the video. Starting off, we have to focus on the main man himself, Kermit the Frog, and I wanted to make him feel somewhat like a starter, like a pseudo-starter, if you will. Not necessarily having the same specifics or the same design patterns as your typical starter, but still having that same type of energy to him. So I wanted the first one to feel small and cute. That ends up being the case with the starters, right? The first one is small and cute before they become these absolute abominations of all things natural. So, starting out, yeah, I had to look at some of the main aspects of Kermit, which turned out to be kind of difficult on the physical side of things, because he's not a lot. He's a green frog, one who tells us consistently that it's not easy being green, but I wanted to focus in on the eyes, on the puppety mouth style, as well as that collar that he has. So I utilized those to kind of give me some context as to the direction that I wanted to go for this style here. I also got to play with some of the shading, knowing that with this collar I wanted it to feel a little bit more angular, not quite so much like a drapey poncho as much like a sticker or a sort of laid out, harsher type of feel to it. Something that I wanted to give just a little bit more texture to the design, give it just a little bit of something rather than feeling like a big round felt puppet, I guess. So I went in and utilized that, and it ended up being a lot of fun. Ended up working out in a lot of ways, gave you a spot where you could kind of rest your eyes as you look over the entirety of the design. But I also wanted to keep those stringy arms and legs. I feel like those are such a key value to the character of Kermit the Frog that it was something you couldn't necessarily go without. And for those of you wondering who aren't huge fans of the Muppets but are watching the video anyway, why I say Kermit the Frog, the is his middle name, so it's pronounced a little bit differently. So I played with that, and you can see I'm kind of working out kind of how I want to do the shadows and shades on that collar. I looked at a lot of reference for other Pokemon who had similar stuff to them, and quite honestly I was kind of looking for an excuse or example to utilize this type of shading system, and this one actually ended up being perfect. I really dig how it goes. It looks a lot like if you've ever read the manga Lieutenant Frog, I feel like there's some in there as well. So this is Kermit. The name is obviously a derivative of what Miss Piggy calls Kermit. He is a pure water type and is the debut Pokemon. I dig him, he's such a little cutie. Now before we get into his evolution, I do want to take a second to take a break here and work on a different Pokemon. We can't have Kermit without Piggy, so I went in working on Miss Piggy. Very difficult, mainly because the whole structure of the character is that we have other pig Pokemon already, and I didn't want to repeat too many of the shapes or ideas that we already have. Looking at Miss Piggy and her personality, the phrase pearls before swine came to mind, and I really wanted to utilize that as a key feature to the structure of this design. But unfortunately, Spoink and Grumpig already utilized that phrase, you being Pearl, Pig, Pokemon. So I had to go a different direction, but keep that same thought in mind. I still wanted to keep that as the base, but wanted to play up some different aspects of it to make it feel all its own. I thought about this elegant pig that thinks that it's so much more grown and so much more fanciful than it truly is. Nothing negative about Miss Piggy, obviously, but I wanted to play up that aspect of her. So I gave her this big little floof of hair that kind of sprigs out from the top that I picture this Pokemon being very proud of, while giving it this whitish belly that I kind of mimicked into a like cocktail dress type of design, kind of like an outfit that the character would wear, while still trying my hardest to keep this neutral to the other pig Pokemon that we already have. I drew some heavy inspiration from Pokemon like Clefairy and Jigglypuff, being as I kind of see this in that same vein. So I feel like it works. I feel like I got a lot done with this design, but having those thoughts of I don't want this to feel like Grumpig or Spoink or Lechonk or any of those Pokemon was definitely something that I feel was holding me back a little bit on the concept. Every idea that I felt like I had felt like it was already taken care of with a different Pokemon design. So I got to play around a little bit and ultimately ended up coming out to something that I'm really happy with. I feel like those limitations allowed me to kind of explore outside of what felt like the safe route, and instead do some stuff that, while this is a very simple design, felt a little bit more risky. And I think it works. I dig this pink little Pokemon. Very fun. I feel like it definitely has that Jigglypuff or Clefairy type of feel to it. So I like to say mission accomplished on this. It also feels like its own Pokemon. I think that splash of yellow for the hair and the tail really gives it that little oomph that allows it to feel like its own. I was also kind of drawing inspiration from Jinx just for the personality of the character, but I feel like that ended up being a little more hidden. So here we have Hamony. The name is a mix between Ham and Harmony. It is the Diva Pokemon and is, as of right now, a pure normal type, but that'll change. While we do have other Muppets to get to, I do want to continue jumping back, pardon the pun, to our Kermit design. I have Kermie as our first form, so this would be an evolution of that, a growth of that same idea, and I really wanted to get that sock puppet type of energy, because the original Kermit was just a sock puppet, essentially just a green sock on Jim Henson's hand that he utilized to kind of bring about the idea of what Kermit would be. The bigger issue was how to get a stance that conveyed the emotion and personality of Kermit. When you have these puppets, especially one like Kermit that doesn't have a lot of eye movement, that doesn't have a lot of like eyebrows, the tongue doesn't move, there's not a lot of hair to give any type of kinetic movement, a lot of it comes from the performance of the wearer. The performance of just that simple hand gesture, and you're able to get so much out of just that. Jim Henson said that one of the key aspects of Kermit is that there needs to be not too much stuffing between the hand and the actual head itself, because the hand is what's giving him so much energy, so much life. And so I wanted something that mimicked that type of idea. So I created this head that looks very much just like a sock puppet while giving it just a little bit more of a design and introducing some colors into this form that we didn't see in the previous. I really love when we have those black bands that we see in generations 3 and 4. I specifically think of Pokemon like Toxicroak and Krogunk, who are some of my absolute favorites and also happen to be frogs. And I love the design of bringing those in. I feel like it gives it just a sleekness that is added by doing so little. Just adding those little design elements not only allows you to break up the shapes, but also allows it to feel like it is more designed than just something flat and simple. And like I said, with Kermit, flat and simple was definitely the thing that I was struggling against throughout the design process here. I wanted something that felt fun, felt energetic, and felt like its own thing, but ultimately, he's a sock puppet. How do you make a sock puppet into something that feels like it has so much personality? I feel like we got it here with Kermog. Kermog's name is clearly Kermit and Frog. He is the debut Pokemon still, and you can see that he has now gained the grass type, really hitting that swamp type of energy. Now, before we hop into the final forms of our Miss Piggy and Kermit Pokemon, there is another design that I wanted to tackle. I told myself at the beginning, oh man, Gonzo will be a ton of fun to make into a Pokemon. He's already so wacky. And that ended up becoming the problem. He's already so wacky of a character. How do you expand on the idea? Especially given that his whole premise is that you don't know what type of animal he is. People have said he's an elephant or a dodo bird or some sort of other avian, but truthfully, the canon for his character is that he's a what? A whatchamacallit, a thingamabob, who knows? So I went in and kind of decided, what if I make him almost a bird? But I use the aspects of the character of Gonzo to inform the layout of that bird. I also decided to give him these mammalian type of feet, almost like a puppy or a dog or a bear or whatever. I decided to give him those because I feel like it throws off the design just enough that you can't fully say that it's a bird, you can't fully say that it's a mammal, you can't fully say that it's any specific animal interpretation. I feel like it gives it just one extra layer of I don't know. So I played that up, gave him these wings as a reference to his Gonzo the Great Cannonballer uniform, which he wears when being fired out of a cannon. I also wanted to give him this long and springy neck that plays up the wackiness of the character, but made sure to segment it, as well as giving him a line across his body there, which I intended to use as feathers falling out. Like, this bird animal thing has been through so many cataclysms and crashes that there are parts of its fur, hair, feathers that just have not grown back. So I feel like that was a fun part of the design, was getting to bring in the story of Gonzo to cover and make up for the lack of animal inspiration. I also didn't want to give him necessarily a beak, so it maintains that that's kind of a nose with the teeth underneath, while making the eyes almost behind these safety goggle type face thing. A lot of this Pokemon was about the unknown and was about just not knowing what direction to go with any specific aspect. And I feel like while that does sound like a weakness, it definitely allowed me to get in the mindset of creating a Gonzo Pokemon here, because you're not supposed to know. You're supposed to be a little confused by the character, and so working on this and feeling that throughout made me feel like I was going the right direction. And honestly, I really dig this design. It has a lot of the Galarian fossil type of energy without just being another Galarian fossil. So this is Groundzo. Groundzo is a ground flying type given its penchant for flying and crashing. It is the mixed up Pokemon and I dig him. Not much more to say.
Hi, quick sec. I want to take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, that being Huion. They develop tablets, pens, and other accessories that help you and me, as creatives, draw and get projects done. All the videos that you see that I worked on are done so on a Huion tablet, so you know that it's good quality. And right now, if you drop down into the description below, I have a link where you can go and purchase some Huion stuff of your own. I don't like to talk about stuff that I don't have full faith in. And over the years that I've been doing drawings, videos, digital design, graphic design, all that stuff, it's been on a Huion tablet. I really love the product, and I think you will too. Now let's get back to the video.
So let's hop back into our main cast here with Miss Piggy. How are we going to make Miss Piggy into a new form, into evolving our previous form, Himani? I thought, well, we have to go big. She's Miss Piggy. You don't go small with Miss Piggy. So I decided, what if we make this Pokemon elegant, but so far beyond elegant that elegant is mistranslated and long forgotten, and we go into just overly tacky, right? So you start with elegant, and you build upon it, and you build upon it, and you build upon it, and if you build upon elegance enough, you end up with Marie Antoinette. And so that was kind of the inspiration for the character, was going with that type of premise for her, and making this aristocratic type of pig, which is a sentence I never thought that I would say, given that the French Revolution was how many years ago? But the aristocratic pig type of look, giving it these dangly earring type bobs on the sides, giving it this pearl like or gem type necklace across the neck, utilizing the eyebrows as another type of jewelry that also give it this determined type of demeanor, and then building upon that with this large type of boa that goes across the top, obviously adding in last minute that big outward flowy dress that kind of doesn't fit, but still is very nice, very elegant. I went in coloring the design and ultimately found that I was just making Miss Piggy, so towards the end, I decided I'm not gonna make her a blonde anymore. I'm gonna go ahead and make this hair purple to match the boa, so it feels like it could be one or the other, really giving that JoJo hat hair type of enigma going on. So I ended up making them all kind of one piece, removing that yellow, that blondish color from the previous form, and bringing in that purple. And given that I wanted to add a new typing to this Pokemon, I felt like it kind of fit in a number of ways, but I am sad to see the blonde go, because it feels like we are moving just a step away from Miss Piggy.
but keeping the blonde part of the hair I felt was taking a step towards this is a pig in a costume, and that's not necessarily something that I wanted to do. So there was a little bit of back and forth for me there, but ultimately I'm really happy with the way that it works. She feels very big, very tall-haired, very, I don't know what the word is, a very je ne sais quoi of a design for this Pokemon. I think that it really fits Miss Piggy, despite not necessarily looking 100% like the character. I feel like the vibe of her is there. And so this is Porcorus. Porcorus' name is a mix between pork and chorus. Still the diva Pokemon, but now has that fairy typing added right on top, and that I feel fits. And now to introduce our guest star is what I'm here to do, so it really makes me happy to introduce to you Kermit the Frog's final form. That, of course, I had to bring in so much inspiration. I don't know if you know this or not, but I actually started learning to play the banjo a couple years ago, and while that is cool, while that is kind of niche, I do have to admit it is 100% because I love the song Rainbow Connection. So I wanted to incorporate the banjo part into this design. So I made this design across the stomach that I was really excited about and continue to be really excited about, that makes the whole body with that elongated neck that we've been working on the previous iterations as making this neck of the banjo, the body being the base of the banjo, the body of the banjo, and using the strings of that to also bring in this tuxedo type of look, this suit type of look, because Kermit the Frog is above all things a showman. So I wanted to bring that in there, make it feel like it's something unique and exciting to the character. Very much feels like that Cricketune type of energy, but hopefully done in a slightly better way, because I do not like Cricketune. But there were a lot of the same elements brought in a way that I'm hoping works a little bit better. So I played with that aspect a little bit. I wanted to play with the stance, making him look like he's strumming these faux strings on his belly, playing a song as you stumble across him. Maybe in your Pokemon journey, you're going through the swamplands where it's dark, it's dank, it's wet, it's moist, and you hear this most beautiful rhythmic sound, much like you would in real life, where you'd hear that reverberation of the frogs calling in the distance that makes this beautiful ambience. Here you hear this banjo strumming, and it tells you that this Pokemon is near. I dig it so much. I feel like there's so much story and lore that you can build into the design for this Pokemon, and ultimately that's something that I look for in each of these videos. So if you have abilities for these Pokemon, let me know down in the comments below. I feel like there's a lot of story elements here that would very well play into what their abilities would be, and I'm very excited with what you come up with. So this is Kerlyric. Kerlyric's name is a mix between Kermit and Lyric, and it's a little bit of a tongue twister. Go ahead and give it a try. He's now a water grass type, and I feel like we're really hitting that boggy, swampy feel. But who is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments. Who would you pick as your partner Pokemon? And why is it Groundzo? If you want high-res images of these Pokemon, as well as other assets and early access to different posts and specific Pokemon that may not be in videos, you can find those over at the Patreon. You can also find me over at Ko-fi, which is also going to be down in the description, where you can purchase designs much like these from previous videos, or ones that weren't in videos at all. And for just $3 a month, you can become a YouTube member and get access to these videos early, as well as enter into our giveaways, which I do once per month. And as per usual, don't forget to check out our Discord, where we have a ton of great people talking about a bunch of different franchises and stuff that we are all real big fans of. Fun fact about our Discord, there are several people who I assume are actually puppets and not real users. I'm not going to say who they are, but they know who they are, and I will find out. All that being said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I will catch you in the next one.
Thank you to our fabulous supporters over at Patreon and Ko-fi, but a special thanks to our higher tier supporters, Yu Hasekaki, Lexrit, Drake Null, Jeremy Sunday, Cam Norshooter, Justin Greenier, Serencinos, Daniel, Jalen Pat, Soren Frost, Styx, Dan Bush, and a big thank yous from Spankies to our Yautja members, Sigil Sealed, Rejuno, Phoenix Smith, Zed Ravenmore, Some Misters, Arctic Rose Creations, Jalen Pat, Crimble McSwizzle. See you all next time, and I am a virus from the mid-90s that has infected Stern's computer. Ha 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 ha.